You can smell it in the air. The NFL draft is getting closer by the day, and we're starting to watch what the Houston Texans are doing in terms of who they're visiting with. Will it matter? We'll talk about it on the Locked On Texans Squad show.
Good people, Stan Norfleet back in the saddle. So happy to be back with my guys. And I want to talk some offensive line. Question: have the Texans gotten better up front now that they have a new guard in the city?
Joe Hickman here. It's been a while, and the draft strategy for the Houston Texans should absolutely be, hey, let's get aggressive. Let's go get a player that's extremely dangerous with the ball in his hands. But who would that player be and what a spot? Let's dive into it on today's show.
Yeehaw! It's time for the Texans Squad. Everything Houston Texans, every week. Bringing you the big hits, game-changing plays, and all the action straight from the Lone Star State. The way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. Saddle up and squad up. It's the Texans Squad show, starting now.
Welcome to the Locked On Texans Squad show. Michael Connor, Stan Norfleet, John Hickman with you here as we're talking all things Houston Texans as the offseason continues. Draft nearing, less than a month to go now from the NFL draft being here. So we're going to have to start diving deep into the players that are connected to the Texans, who we want to see with the Texans. We're going to get through all of that. We got to, of course, do our typical offensive line talk, because why wouldn't we talk about offensive line on this show? Maybe even drop in some receivers too, because we love to do those as well. We got a lot to get to over the next hour. We appreciate you guys stopping by and watching. If you're watching live, make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube channel for John's daily work as well with the Locked On Texans podcast. He's with you and getting you deeper into the draft stuff every single time that he's got stuff coming out. So keep up with what John's got going on. Gentlemen, first of all, it's been a minute, so good to see you both. How are we feeling about the Houston Texans sitting here today? Stan, we'll let you lead off because we hadn't heard from you in a second. It's been an off season where I feel like I'm not one that values what national media says typically too often, because they're not entrenched in watching the day to day and keeping up. They're just feeding people information basically, and then sometimes they give opinions, and I don't value your opinion because I know you don't watch anything that's going on here. Well, I don't know if I should be scared or I should like it. It seems like some people are like, man, the Texans are having a sneaky good offseason. Is it sneaky good? Is it average? What is it?
I think I have talked myself into it is marginal improvement, and I'll kind of back my way and show my work. You bring over Braden Smith in free agency and sign him from a division rival, the Indianapolis Colts. Braden Smith is not a Pro Bowler or an All-Pro caliber player, but I would equate him to what Titus Howard was for the Texans. He's just a really solid guy that you can pencil in that will get the job done. Former second-round pick out of Auburn back in 2018. Better run blocker than pass blocker. I think that, at one point, they thought enough of him in 2021 to make Braden Smith the highest paid right tackle in all of pro football. So that tells you to where he was at that time. I love the experience. 105 starts out of 107 games played over his 8-year career. He's had, some mental health issues. 2024, missed 5 games, and then a neck and a concussion in 2025 cost him 4 games. So he's been pretty durable outside of the last couple of years. And so he finds himself here in Houston. I'll come back to him in just a second. Wyatt Teller, they bring him over. Remember, we all talked about, would they get Batonio? Could they get him to stay around? Would they get Wyatt Teller? They end up getting Teller. Sounds like CJ doing a little bit of recruiting there on the West Coast at an NFL Christian Forum. And so, by the way, Braden Smith turns 30 years old today. Happy birthday to him. Wyatt Teller, 31 years old, 3-time Pro Bowler, 2-time All-Pro. He, too, has missed 8 games, 1 less than Braden had over the last few years. Didn't have a great year last year. He also has experience, 101 games started. Hasn't played left guard since his rookie season. So I don't want to, belabor the point and get too far into the weeds on the resume. The bottom line is this. Here's what you got to ask yourself. Braden Smith was brought here to be the starting right tackle. He's younger. and a little bit better than Trent Brown. So you upgraded at the right tackle if you consider Titus was a left guard. I believe Wyatt Teller is a better left guard than Titus is a left guard. I think Titus was better at tackle. Obviously, Titus no longer here. So looks like Andrews is going to be back. You know, he essentially played the latter part of the season on one leg. Looks like he's going to be healthy and be back at the pivot spot because I don't think they're going to find anybody in the draft that is better at center than Jake Andrews. So when you couple that with Ariante Ursery at left tackle, they re-signed Ed Ingram, who had a career year at right guard this past year. Those are your five. I say all of that to come back to you guys and say, I think the offensive line, when healthy, is better than the offensive line we saw last when Trent Brown was healthy. You get Ariante Ursery in that second year, again, a healthy Jake Andrews, and there is some improvement there.
Let's not forget Evan Brown. Houston did sign Evan Brown, who has a ton of experience at center. So I think we're going to see a very good and healthy competition between Brown and Jake Andrews. But to the point of like if the offensive line is better this year compared to last year, who's the best offensive lineman this year? On paper, at least, right now.
Probably Wyatt Teller.
Okay. Who's the best offensive lineman last year for Houston on paper, but also at the end of the season?
Titus Howard.
Okay. What does the Houston Texans want to do? They want to run the ball, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, that was never really Titus Howard's calling. But we look at Wyatt Teller coming to Houston, and we also look at the addition of Braden Smith, who I think is a better run blocker out there at tackle than Titus Howard was at tackle. Titus Howard was a great pass blocker. Run blocking, that's where you will see the downfall a little bit in this game. Then you also got to look at, just Ariante Ursery, who will continue to ascend and build on the rookie year he had. So I think it's hard to say who's better in 2026 compared to 2025 because we're still on paper. The game ain't played on paper. But I think what we can admit to is Caserio finally went and got guys that matches the vision of what the offensive coordinator and D'Amico Ryans wants. Tough, hard-nosed, physical team that wants to run the ball. They were not able to do that, and there was never going to be their real makeup with Titus Howard because that's not Titus Howard's game. And forcing him at guard always hindered Houston's ceiling in many ways at being able to run the ball. Now you look at Wyatt Teller, who's up in age, dealt with injuries last year, dealt with a down year. Now you look at Braden Smith coming over, and even with the addition of Evan Brown, and now he can run some 12 personnel with Foster Moreau at that other tight end spot. Now, at the very least, on paper, they are able to have the guys that fits the vision of what they want their offense to look like. That's why I think it's important to, kind of point out the additions and, look at how Houston failed in many ways in 2025 and how Houston kind of overcame that to this point in free agency. Obviously, we'll see them build on that in the draft with some of the young guys that they'll pick up on. But on paper right now, this offensive line matches what Kaylee and D'Amico want.
I also get excited about Cole Popovich. I've been very vocal about not feeling great about elevating Cole Popovich to the offensive line coach, being previously the assistant under the former Chris Strausser. Cole Popovich did a nice job in 2025, and I will give him that. So I get excited about what this could look like in year two. Now, people are going to say, and I heard it on some of the local radio this week, oh, yeah, Nick Caley, year two, CJ, another year in this offense, wow, it's going to take off. Well, this offense regressed in year two of Bobby Slowick. So I don't think it's a foregone conclusion that just because it's year two, everything is just going to be peaches and cream. I want to bring up two names while we stay here on the offensive line, if I could. I want to go back to Braden Smith at that right tackle spot, a place that he has manned his entire career. Jonathan Taylor. I think blocking for a back like Jonathan Taylor and having experience in a run-heavy scheme, which is, I and John have both said, is where Braden Smith excels. I think there's some there's something to be said for having that type of experience in blocking for a guy like that. So when they get into the offensive meeting room and they're doing run game install, Braden Smith can turn to young guys like a Woody Marks, like a Jawar Jordan, like a British Brooks, and to some degree, perhaps even David Montgomery, and go, hey, look, when I was blocking for JT, this is how we would do it. And we found that versus that front in this scheme, this could be successful. So you get the IQ and the experience of not only David Montgomery, but now you get a guy like Braden Smith and Wyatt Teller pouring into your offensive line group and into your offensive meeting room as well. The other name that I want to bring up, when I saw the re-signing of Trent Brown, and then I saw the signing of Braden Smith, it made me ask, what is in the future for Blake Fisher? Because I'm like, hey, we traded up in the second round for this man, and this is about to be year 3.
No more jumbo package. I tell you that. Thank God.
This is that's a Nick Caserio special. Second round means you're just destined to be off the team at some point.
Shout out to Juice Scruggs.
But you just, the former Juice Scruggs no longer with us. Kenyon Green, former first rounder, no longer with us. John Mechie III, for various reasons, no longer with us. Though he still is in the league, I'm very happy for Mitch.
None of them are dead. You're making it sound like they're dead.
They're just no longer with the Houston Texans. They don't work on Kirby anymore. But no, I'm being serious. Like, what does Braden Smith and Blake Fisher, we know Ariante over there. Right now, right now, Trent Brown's your backup right tackle. Mm-hmm. So that means Blake would be backing up Ariante Ursery.
I think that's perfect.
I don't think he's a left tackle. I don't think he's a left tackle.
We saw him perform extremely well at a very high level in that Chargers game to end off the year before the playoffs when he started at left tackle. And that was probably some of the best football he's played in his 2-year career. I personally think I'm of the mindset that Houston has their tackle room set right now. Braden Smith, Trent Brown on the right side, Ursery and Fisher on the left side. Now, where Houston can bulk themselves up and build more depth and get a little bit more, talent in their room is on the inside. But for Blake Fisher, I think he is where he's going to be. Like, he ain't going to beat out Ariante Ursery. He's not going to beat out any of those guys on the right side. He could be a trade candidate at some point, maybe if a team really comes calling and want to trade a late round pick for him for next year's draft. But I think Houston is set, and I think that in many ways, Houston not throwing him away last year and not just completely disregarding him and making sure they found ways to get him on the field, albeit they needed to because they couldn't run the ball worth a damn. That helped him out in the long run, and I think he is where he's supposed to be, a backup left tackle that has some talent, but he's not going to beat out Ursery. And if the Houston Texans need to break the glass, they got somebody they can trust.
Well, trust is a word that I don't think they would associate with Blake Fisher, or Braden Smith wouldn't be here. Trent Brown would be the backup, and then because let's go back to when he came out of school. What draft was that? That's the 23 draft? No,
he was
24 draft.
Yeah,
24 draft. So remember, he played right tackle opposite of Joe Alt at Notre Dame. So the excitement was, cool, here's a guy that could be an eventual replacement for Titus at the right tackle spot, which frees up some resources for the Texans to go get a left tackle. They end up doing that. It ends up being Ariante Ursery. So you had your right tackle, then you went and go get your left. Well, I'm just going to be honest, and this is the way that Nick Caserio and that scouting staff, that personnel department must think about it. What if Ariante Ursery misses games? When you're trying to win a division and get back in the postseason for a 4th consecutive season, can you count on Blake Fisher down in and down out at that left tackle spot? I don't think they're there yet. I think he's really a right tackle. I think Blake Fisher's in trouble because I do think, and we'll talk more about this show, the Texans are going to go invest in more young talent at the tackle spot in this coming NFL draft. So Blake Fisher, I think there's nobody on this squad. Maybe you guys will follow me here as we get ready to go to break. Is this a bigger year for anybody outside of Blake Fisher? Like, can you think of anyone that needs this year to go well more than Blake Fisher? Now, you're going to say C.J. Stroud, but I don't think C.J. is in trouble more than Blake Fisher.
No, I could give you some names because
Hold on. We can give the names. We'll stay right there in just a brief second. And then I have another question on top of the offensive line as well for you guys that we'll get to the end of the segment right here next on the Locked On Texans Squad Show. This time of the year, you just really want something warm, easy, and satisfying to eat. That's why Home Chef has become such a go-to. It takes the stress out of dinner and makes it simple to actually enjoy cooking again. Home Chef makes cooking easy with fresh, pre-portioned ingredients, simple recipes, and meals that taste great. They're quick, from 30-minute recipes to oven-ready options when you don't want to think. Tons of variety, over 30 meals each week, so it never feels repetitive. For a limited time, Home Chef is offering my listeners 50% off and free shipping for your first box, plus free dessert for life. Go to homechef.com/lockedonnfl. That's homechef.com/lockedonnfl for 50% off your first box and free dessert for life. Must be an active subscriber to receive free dessert. It's the Squad Show. Michael Connor, Stan Norfleet, and John Hickman with you. Thank you for joining us if you're watching live. Make sure you're, of course, always watching this show and John's Daily Show. Subscribe to the YouTube page, and you can get this anywhere that you get your podcast. Go search for Locked On Texans, and guess what? It costs you nothing. I'll have a question with offensive line here in a second for you guys, but Stan, you asked the question just a second ago. Is there anybody on this team that needs a bigger year than Blake Fisher? And John, you have some names immediately. I know I have some as well.
Yeah, man. First of all, shout out to my boy Mr. Patton81 in the chat right now. He does a great job of doing his draft coverage as well on his show. It is great to see you guys back again.
Shout out to the
shout out to him. Yeah, man. Tank Dell coming back after missing the full season.
Number one. Tank Dell number one now.
I mean,
no longer number 3.
No,
and let me say this. Right, because let's look at this. Tank Dell had missed the whole season. The season before that, he got hurt. The season before that, the brother got hurt. But this is year 4. Ain't no fifth-year option for Tank Dell. Tank Dell got to get paid next year. So this season is going to be monumental for Dell. But also, if we just go to the offensive line, we got to look at the guys that are starting before we look at the guys on the bench. And while a lot of people have been excited about Wyatt Teller, the fact remains is how he started 2025 was okay. How he ended 2025 was atrocious. He was benched for Tevin Jenkins because of injuries and decline in his play, regression in his play. Like the Texans are hoping to get the former version of Wyatt Teller back. And, you know, what I think is funny is he kind of mentioned, I can't wait to talk about it, like, hey, we were throwing the ball a lot, man.
He hated that.
Yeah, he said 70% of the time. But, like, those are the two guys that I can just think off the top of my head, and that's excluding C.J. Stroud, that needs to have a great 2026 season. Tank, Wyatt Teller, and here's another guy, because his rookie year was so disappointing. Jalen Noel is a guy that I think needs to have a better 2026 or make it or break it, however you want to frame it, over Blake Fisher. So I got Tank, I got Jalen Noel at the 2 wide receiver spots, and I got Wyatt Teller, the veteran that's been added to this offensive line room.
I would take real quick just for this show, just so John and I can have a year full of having fun. Jaden Higgins.
Well,
Jaden Higgins goes and balls out, then this show is going to be great. John and I every time are going to be reminding you how great Jaden Higgins is.
So I hope Higgins has a great year, by the way. I know he's been training for a while. Seems to be a good kid. Very happy that he's in the league. And so I'm going to push back on this is a bigger year for Higgins. Higgins is going to be under contract next year no matter how he plays this year. All right, we know that. Tank, because he can run, will get other opportunities in this league, even if it's not with Houston after this year. All right, he ran 4.3 something before he got hurt. So what does he run now? 4.49. he's still going to get an opportunity because of the tape. Somebody's going to invest in him because he put up that type of tape when he's healthy. Wyatt Teller, he's 31 years old. That's a 2-year deal? I think I saw 2 years at maybe like 14 million guaranteed. So it is highly likely that he's on this roster next year, but I haven't looked at the specific numbers, so don't hold that for me. Guys, Juice Scruggs is close to not being in the league, a la Kenyon Green. You understand what I'm saying to you? So when you talk about maintaining employment, if the Texans were to move on like they did from Juice Scruggs with Blake Fisher at the end of this year, yeah, somebody would probably, take a flyer on him. But when you're a second-round pick and you've gotten as many chances as Blake Fisher has gotten, and it's not clicking,
I don't think Blake Fisher has gotten chances.
Hold on. When they went out there with the ones to open up training camp, true or false, Blake Fisher was starting at right tackle. When the ones ran on the field,
I remember correctly, maybe the first two days.
It was his job to lose, and it was awful.
It was pretty bad.
So he started as a rookie in some backup spots. So they've seen him. There's plenty of tape of Blake Fisher starting at tackle for the Houston Texans, left and right. And neither one of them look great. Now, I hope the kid locks in and gets his body together. And, Cole Popovich, the offensive line coach, is able to get the best out of him. But I fear for this young man, his NFL career could be hanging in the balance because he doesn't run 4.4 anything. And he's certainly not Jaden Higgins entering his second season. And Wyatt Teller is just, between his previous accolades, Wyatt Teller is still a serviceable offensive lineman. And he's been way better than what Blake Fisher has been since Blake Fisher's been in the league.
Is there anybody on the defensive side of the football? Did we miss anybody? Because we always,
that needs to have a year. Well, it would have been Christian Harris, but he gone.
Yeah.
It would have been Christian Harris. Now. Yeah, everybody else on defense is in a good situation. Everybody either just got paid or they're about to get paid.
I would say now if we look at long term, whether that's going to be with Houston or not, I would say maybe Henry To'oTo'o.
I would say if you had to pick one, Tommy T. I think Tommy T is on the brink of getting a very big payday.
Yeah.
And as a mid-round pick,
lucky Houston got him on a 2-year deal from last year because he would have played his way out of that. He played his way out of that. And towards the end of the year, we were coming on every show like, man, did y'all see
every show?
Yeah, he was balling. But if there's any player on the defensive side of the ball that I think this year and beyond, because I do think at some point Houston is going to invest a day 2 or maybe a day 1 pick into a linebacker, first and second round, I think it would be Henry To'oTo'o.
I think Henry's put up enough good tape, especially in 2024 and 2025. I think Henry, even if the Texans were to move on, Henry is good enough to go start for somebody else. Now, Henry's problem is they re-signed E.J. Speed. And I think E.J. Speed could eat into some of those snaps as I predicted E.J. Speed would in 2025. And where would the Texans have been in some of those games if E.J. Speed wasn't on this roster? So I suspect that Henry's going to be fine. Henry will be in the league in 2026 or in 2027 as long as he's healthy, regardless of how that 26 goes. So he's got enough good tape out there. I'm not worried about him.
You know who needs a big year? This crappy kicker they brought in. That's who needs a big year. If he's going to be the punter, the terrible punter. Yeah, if he's the punter, he's got to have a big year. But he's not going to be in the league. There you go. Found one.
Kai Kroger. Yeah. Kai Kroger.
I didn't understand that one. And Nick has had a good offseason, if you ask me. And we've been, extremely critical of Nick on this show. But, I said, listen, dude, did I think Tommy Townsend was great last year? No, he wasn't great. But he was, you look at the numbers, he was 10 times better than the guy that they signed.
He's better than this dude,
from New Orleans. I didn't understand that one. Mm-mm. Maybe, I don't know, maybe Nick went to Bourbon Street and had a few mini drinks and said, hey, we like you. Because maybe he bought a couple for him, but I don't get it. Them grenades ain't that strong for Nick to make that decision. I didn't understand it.
The Tommy Townsend thing is interesting because it's not like Tommy Townsend is breaking the bank, but maybe Nick Caserio just has a value on the position, and Tommy had exceeded that. I don't know. There was some times it was almost like when Tommy was good, Tommy, it was nice, but when it was bad, it was bad. Maybe they're looking for a little bit more consistency. So you may not get the ceiling, but maybe you can raise the floor on a consistent basis. I don't know. We'll keep our eyes on that punting situation. But I think we all agree we trust special teams coordinator Frank Ross. Frank Ross's unit, year in and year out, they show up and show out. So you bring back Kaimi, and so you got that locked in. And so we
be shocked if Houston drafts a punter this year.
I was thinking that as well. Bring somebody in 6th or 7th round priority free agent. Yeah,
because it does feel like Houston right now, how the roster is put together, it feels like for a team that normally moves around off those late round picks a lot, they don't need much this year on this roster. They did a good job in many ways addressing the offensive issues like David Montgomery, the attempts at improving the offensive line with Braden Smith, Evan Brown, Wyatt Teller. Foster Moreau is light years better than whatever Kay Stover has put out on tape, and he's been healthier and been better than Brevin Jordan the last 2 seasons because we haven't seen Brevin.
Yeah.
So you look at the upgrade there at tight end too. You look at the upgrade at the running back spot. I am of the mindset that I think Houston could absolutely benefit from drafting a receiver early, but you also look at the D tackle spot is pretty good with Logan Hall. He says he's a 3-tech. So they signed Naquan Jones. They brought him back, Tommy T and Sheldon Rankin. So that's 4 guys right there. Obviously, they'll add to it because we know how much Houston likes to rotate guys, and they'll look for a future presence to play alongside Will Anderson. Like, they don't need much. So in the 6th round, they could very well say, let's just draft a punter and have those guys compete, and whoever makes it, we'll keep around. Who don't, we'll practice squad them because they don't need much.
I think, and I know this is starting to teeter into the draft talk, MC. I'm probably slow to pull the trigger on an interior defensive lineman right now because at least early, because we've seen D'Amico and Nick Caserio be able to plug those holes, right? We talk about the emergence of Tommy T. We saw Khalil Davis in the postseason run there. We saw Naquan Jones, who they brought over. I think that was via trade. I can't believe may have been in free agency. He may have been on the street and it was just a signing. Nonetheless, we've seen the Texans be able to address that interior spot. We know there are no real reps to be had on the edges on defense. The linebacker spots are pretty much accounted for. You could see somebody, when you got Jake Hansen still on the roster, you got BJ Hill, a draft pick from a couple years ago. You've got some guys that have been around and in this system for a while, backing up those guys. The secondary, if there was an area with the signing of Blankenship at that strong safety spot, I think he will allow Kalen Bullock to just do middle of the field, Kalen Bullock type thing, making plays on the ball. I'm still uncomfortable at that 3rd corner spot. That's something that maybe we can address as we really start unpacking the draft conversation. All due respect to Jalen Smith there, but I'm not quite comfortable where we are between the Smiths, Jalen Smith and Tremont Smith. I think I'd like to see somebody else with a bit more upside there at that 3rd corner spot. Offensively, I agree with everything you said, John. Wide receiver for me, it's not a young guy. For me, it's somebody that's on the street. They got to go get somebody that is experienced, right? The Texans have had a lot of success going to get Noah Brown in 2023 and Robert Woods in 23 and 24 in small doses. I think about guys like obviously Steph Diggs, in his half a season that he was healthy, was really impactful for this unit. Christian Kirk would be the one outlier. Kirk did have some moments, but he didn't quite live up to the compensation. So more often than not, the Texans have been able to go maximize a veteran receiver, and I think I'd like to see one more vet in there. They got enough young guys.
They do have enough young guys. We're going to talk
this year too, by the way.
we're going to talk the strategy here in just a second as well. And before we do get out, I do have a question based off that offensive line that I still want to get to you guys. But we'll talk draft strategy for this team when we return to the Locked On Texans Squad show. What if sports were traded like markets? Now you can put your sports IQ to work in real time with Robinhood prediction markets. It's not you against the house. It's you participating in a live market. You can buy or sell your positions live all game long. Use your sports knowledge in moments that matter. Robinhood prediction markets changes the game. It's people moving the action. So when the momentum shifts, you can move with it. I always knew the game, but never had a dynamic way to apply that knowledge. Now I can actually take part live in a market powered by people. You're no longer just a spectator. Play by play, you decide. Trade every play with Robinhood. Now available across the U.S. Download the Robinhood app now to begin. Futures and cleared swaps. Trading involves significant risk and is not appropriate for everyone. Event contracts are offered by Robinhood Derivatives LLC, a registered futures commission merchant and swap firm. Texan Squad show. We're talking NFL draft now. Michael Connor, Stan Norfleet, and John Hickman with you. Thank you for joining us. As it is less than a month, guys, the city of Pittsburgh will be hosting the NFL draft. It'll be nice one day when the city of Houston hosts it out in Bridgeland, where it's not in the city of Houston, technically. Because, that's kind of saw today that I think Minnesota has put a proposal to host it in 2028, I believe. Because I don't know who hosts it in 2027. I'd have to look.
I don't know. I saw Las Vegas is getting the Super Bowl in 28. Did I see that was a done deal?
Yeah, what a shock. Super Bowl going back to Las Vegas. We're not going to see that every 3 years. It's a good thing. But the draft is coming. The Texans pick at 28. We're going off of the assumption. All right, real quick. First of all, I guess we could probably do like a weekly heat check on this. Will they pick at 28? Yes or no? Stan?
No.
Okay, John?
Are they trading back or are they trading up, Stan? What they doing?
They're going to trade back.
I'm saying they're trading up. I think they're going to get aggressive this year.
I'd be on Stan's side. I'd say trade back.
Have we seen Caserio trade up in the first round other than Will Anderson since D'Amico has been here? Not in the first round.
No, he stayed put for Derek Stingley in 22. Then he traded back.
I mean, he hasn't. Yeah, he hadn't been in the first round since he hasn't picked in the first round since CJ and Will. So that's 2023.
The following years, he traded back, ended up with Kamari. Last year, ended up with Higgins. I think he breaks that trend this year. Like I mentioned, Houston doesn't need a lot.
They don't need a lot. Now, what they do need is depth. I get concerned about the depth on the offensive line. I'm concerned about the depth at corner, as I talked about in the previous segment. The linebacker depth, I think, is okay. The depth on those edges, I think D'Amico can get through that. The interior depth, I think D'Amico can get through that. For me, it's about offense. Have they done enough on offense? And I think, John, you and I, when we talk about previewing the draft and a particular individual that has risen up my board at a position that I think the Texans desperately need to infuse a little bit more juice. There's a particular guy that's got some of those traits that I like.
If you guys were to power rank what you want in terms of, let's just say that they stay at position 28 in the first round. If you guys were to power rank like the top 3 position groups you want there, do you have that?
Oh, I do.
Yeah,
I do.
Okay, what are they?
Go ahead, John.
Tight end. And 2 and 3, however, in whatever order, guard, receiver.
Okay. I'm going to go, if they stay at 28, offensive tackle. Second choice would be interior defensive lineman. Because I really want to say corner right there. And third choice would probably be corner. Which is weird that that's my system, my tiered system, because there's a particular dude that we'll get to.
The funny thing about Houston staying at 28 is, I mean, I think really outside of tight end, because I would assume the second tight end taken would probably be Eli Stowers.
I would
And
agree.
I don't think he's gonna he doesn't fit Houston. Plus, he's built like Jaden Higgins in a lot of ways. So I don't know if he's like a guy for Houston. But like if you go deep tackle, I feel like there isn't going to be a huge difference in talent between 28 and 38. Same
I
with
agree with
guard,
that.
same with
I agree with
majority
that.
of those positions. So it's kind of like you can't go really wrong. Like you got Kaden McDonald will be available possibly around 28.
Peter
Caleb
Woods
Banks,
Peter Woods
Peter
is the one
Woods.
that's the tackle out of Clemson. He's the one that everybody is weekly. They have been mocking him to the Texans now that the Texans have put money into the offensive line.
Caleb Banks, he's suffering from a foot injury. So what is his upside like? Will he be available at 28 or 38? Same way
University
with
of
Lee
Florida.
Hunter out of Texas Tech. Same way, and a guy that I really like, Grayson Halton, out of Oklahoma. So like, and he's going to be projected to maybe go bottom of the second, top of the third. But between 28 and maybe 50, all of those positions that are, guys that'll be available, I think they're going to have the same type of value.
Now, real quick, John,
so
you tell me if I've missed any here. I see the visits that they've had so far, and we can kind of go. We do know the Texans have a history of taking guys that they bring in.
They draft guys on the visits, yeah.
Caden McDonald, the DT from Ohio State, you mentioned him. He's visited. Jalen Kilgore, the DB from South Carolina. Running back Adam Randall from I think is he Texas? It says Texans on this list. That's wrong. He's not a Texan. And then Caden Proctor from Alabama. Those are the four that I've seen confirmed.
How do you guys feel about Proctor?
I think he'll be gone by 28.
Actually, I
get
don't.
Aggressive then.
I don't. I'm so confused on Proctor because he just screams a tackle that's going to have to shift inside, and that happens a lot with Alabama tackles.
Yeah, Proctor. And I know his size. I know he's a big man. I think he's one of those big boys that's in the 330s, 320s, 330s off the top of my head. I look at Proctor, again, he'll be gone. But I don't know that you have to move up for him. I have not continued, I have not seen a consistent cut up of his work at Alabama. I'm just going off the eyeball test of games that I was able to catch live and some highlights. But Blake Miller, again, let's go back down there and visit with Dabo. Blake Miller is another popular mock draft association from Clemson. Now, Blake Miller is a right tackle. He's 6'7", 317, started 13 games last year, only allowed 2 sacks, ton of experience. 54 games started for Dabo Swinney and those Clemson Tigers, albeit the ACC has been down the last couple of years, but it's still a formidable program. They're certainly not the laughing stocks. Respectable program, pumping out a ton of NFL talent. I think Clemson is scheduled to have 7 guys go in the first 2 rounds. The last time I looked at the mock, so it's plenty of NFL talent around there.
And they can't win over there, man. What are they doing?
Yeah, Dabo's a little late to this transfer portal NIL situation, so he's got to work through.
And on top of that, he's late, and he also, you remember, he was so against it.
That's what I'm saying.
He was sending out those messages live on TV and
just shooting himself in the foot, recruiting.
Shooting himself in the foot, yeah.
But he still got some horses over there now. So for me,
recruit a quarterback to save his life.
Klubnik is going to be a draft selection. Klubnik is going to be a guy that's going to get paid. We'll see what type of legitimate prospect he turns into. My thing is for the Houston Texans is Ariante Ursery and these old guys. Blake Fisher, I think, I don't know that the light bulb is going to come on for him, and I'm sorry, but that's just what the projections show me now, given the amount of tape that we have on him. I think the Texans need to go get another tackle. That would be priority number 1 for me. Whether it's a guy that plays right or left, you need to have some insurance there. This team is in trouble if Ursery goes down or misses time for any reason. I don't trust that they have somebody they can just put over there at left. Now, maybe Trent Brown could have success at left that he had at right a year ago. I just don't trust that.
I can understand. I just wanted to give you guys real quick. I've pulled up a bunch of mock drafts here because, like we said, it is mock draft season. Bucky Brooks at NFL.com has the Texans taking
That's the one.
Peter Woods from Clemson.
Oh no, not that one. Not that one. Not that one.
I've
Give me
seen
that Phil Yates, ESPN. Not that
Oh,
one.
hold on. That one's
There's one I love.
got Eric Edholm from NFL.com has them taking Cade McDaniel, the defensive tackle from Ohio State.
Seen that one.
Daniel Jeremiah, who's a respected name in this world. I think we talked about this one. Chase Bistonis, the interior offensive lineman from Texas A&M.
A&M, yeah.
Stay away from those. You've already failed on those, Nick Caserio.
He was at Texas A&M today, actually.
Was he?
Him and the guys were deep up there.
Okay. My buddy, NFL Network and radio host in Houston, Lance Zierlein, has them at NFL.com, has them taking Caleb Lomo, offensive tackle from
Utah.
You go to Mel Kiper, of course, the guy that everybody goes to, even though I would love to see somebody put down his percentages. I bet they're terrible. Christian Miller, the defensive tackle from
Alabama or Georgia?
Georgia. For him.
I've seen that a lot lately too, Christian Miller.
Yeah, that one's well, it'll be interesting to see if he gets a visit. And then you mentioned Field Yates. Field Yates did a 2-rounder, but in his first round, he has Peter Woods from Clemson.
I don't know who I was looking at. And John, it's finally time for us to get to that name that you and I both like. You mentioned this name first, and I had to go get caught up. Hey, this Kenyon Sadiq, tight end out of Oregon.
Trade up for him. Trade up for him. Because I think
we do this.
How far?
We did this.
How far?
We always find a guy. And the Texans never do this.
From 28 to 20?
Yeah.
Well, the Texans have an extra third this year, right? Because of the Larry Tunsil deal?
Yes. Wait,
do they have 2 2s or 2 3s this year? I can't keep track of it.
They have 2 2s. They have 38 and 20. They have 38 and they have 59.
I believe they have 4 picks in the top 100. Does that sound right?
That sounds right. So if I'm able to get rid of the third with me having 2 2s, I'll give up a 3rd round pick to go from 28 to 20. If you're talking about Kenyon Sadiq, this is a special athlete. Clearly, he's at a winning program with what Dan Lannon is doing out west, up there in Eugene. 6'3", 240 run, ran 4.39 vert, 43 and a half foot vertical, and broad jumped 11.1. Y'all know how I feel about aliens. This boy right here, he's number 12 on Mel Kiper's big board. Kenyon Sadiq, along with Dalton Schultz, along with Foster Moreau, that is a complete tight end room. And then whatever you get out of Stover and Luke Lachey as he develops, as well as Brevin Jordan as he recovers from back-to-back season-ending lower extremity injuries, whatever you get from the rest of those dudes, icing on the cake. You go get Kenyon Sadiq.
You're looking at an offense that can sustain itself past Dalton Schultz, past Foster Moreau, what he give. You're looking at an offense that for the first time, I mean, you're looking at Houston being able to go 12 personnel. Obviously, they can do it now with Schultz and Moreau, but this is Nick Caley, and we saw a lot of Patriot background offense from Caley last year. So the expectation is the tight end bunch will be utilized a lot more as they continue to get, more talent in that room. There's not a tight end more talented than Sadiq in this year's draft.
No. Even though you mentioned the name earlier, and I just want to add context to this, Sadiq is the better prospect, even though Eli Stowers out of Vanderbilt won the Mackey Award for the nation's best tight end. Kenyon Sadiq, he projects as a better NFL player than Stowers.
And the reason behind that is simply because Sadiq will get out there and block. Sadiq, if you go look at the tape on,
he's serviceable.
Some of those one-on-one 1v1 opportunities that Stowers has compared to Sadiq, you'll see way more reps won by Sadiq than the other way. And that matters for Houston. So you're looking at a guy that, is he already giving you effort, and has he already shown improvements in that area? And has he already shown wins in that area? Yes, he has. Yes, he has. Yes, he has. Oh, and he's also an athletic freak that can be dangerous with the ball in his hands. and you start thinking about life after Dalton Schultz, it's him.
And that's the thing that the biggest trait for me, why I like Kenyon Sadiq more than Stowers from Vanderbilt. Some people are saying Max Clare out of Ohio State is probably that tight end 3.
Ohio State tight end.
So those guys are the Stowers and Clare are really receiving. They're pass catching tight ends. These are not in-line guys. And so given that Schultz has some physical limitations, Foster Moreau has some physical limitations, though he does bring some size and experience to the position. Not that he's a huge guy, but he's of adequate NFL build to play the position. None of those guys have the physical profile of Kenyon Sadiq. And if you're going to run this dink and dunk offense in today's NFL, you must get yards after contact. And Kenyon Sadiq is a guy like a Kyle Pitts Sr. is a guy that can, you know who they show him? Lance Erline, Houston's very own. Do you know who the comp is for Kenyon Sadiq according to Lance Erline of NFL Network? Trey McBride. Do you remember what Trey McBride in Arizona did? Trey McBride for the Arizona Cardinals destroyed the Houston Texans. So I'm Team Sadiq.
You can sign me up for it. I'm looking at most of these mock drafts. He's kind of in the range of like 15 to all the way up to 27 in some of these. So
yeah, he would have to fall. So it would have to be something like there are a lot of guards in this draft, or there are a lot of tackles that project better at guards. There would have to be a run on tackles, and then some funky stuff would have to happen, like a run on tackles, a run of defensive interior alignment, and it would push those skill players down. Another sneaky one to keep your eye on.
I want to hear it.
Hey, AJ Terrell's brother at Clemson, as an Avion Terrell, that corner.
Hey, he's nice.
He's not a big boy. He's not big, but he makes plays on the football for sure. I like Terrell, and if he's anything like Big Bro in Atlanta, that's a former All-Pro in his own right at the cornerback spot. That's a young guy that you could bring in. Stingley has missed time, and Lassiter has missed time. So we've been talking about that third corner spot coming out of a program again. The Clemson, we going back. It seems like the Texans are hell bent on getting at least somebody in one of these first 2 rounds from down there in Death Valley in Clemson, South Carolina.
I want to add this really quick because a lot of mock drafts, and it's that time of the year where people are just making up stuff and reasons to not like a player. But I've been seeing so many mock drafts where Makai Lemon has been slipping to 17. 18, 19, and I'm sorry, guys. I would absolutely trade up for Makai Lemon if the price is right, if you're not selling your soul, and again for Houston, who doesn't really need much, I go get Makai Lemon and just say, CJ, you got it all, brother. You got Nico, you got Higgins, you got Noah, you got your boy Tank coming back. Now you have Makai. You also have Dalton. We also just got your Foster Moreau. Hutch is still in this room.
Montgomery in the backfield.
Woody building off of what he did.
Woody Marks,
you being the quarterback that recruited some of these offensive linemen, you got it all, brother. It is no more need to have any more questions. But for some people to have Makai Lemon slipping, it's ridiculous to me. He is the best receiver in this year's draft. And obviously, this is a pipe dream, but if Houston can make that happen, then I'd pull the trigger on that quick.
Last thing, real quick for me, MC. If they make a deal, if Casario trades up for Makai Lemon out of USC, knowing that he could have a Emeka Egbuka on this roster, had he been as aggressive last year, I'm going to lose it.
Oh, my God.
You don't believe that Lemon is better than Emeka Egbuka. I know you don't believe that.
Are you asking me?
I'm asking you that. I know you don't believe that. Go to break, MC. Go to break, John.
We'll take a quick timeout.
I believe it.
We'll let John compose himself. I do have a question about what they've done in this offseason in terms of the most important factor for this team succeeding in 2026. We'll talk about it next year on the Locked On Texans Squad Show. Back to it on the Locked On Texans Squad Show for the final segment. Michael Connor, Stan Norfleet, and John Hickman. Guys, we can do all this talking about this move and that move and what we'd like to see, pipe dream here, pipe dream there, what they need in the draft, whatever it might be. The number one thing that I think we can all agree on for this football team in 2026 to be successful at the highest of levels and go to a place that they've never gone before. We talked about this at the end of the season. They, for the first time ever, are going to have home field advantage in the playoffs, either as the 1 seed or the 2 seed, to maybe give us any kind of confidence that they can actually reach an AFC championship game. Based off what they've done right now, before the draft, have they done enough in the AFC to put themselves in a spot where they can be a 1 or 2 seed in the conference?
It's hard to tell, man. Like Buffalo added DJ Moore. I thought that was a great move for Buffalo.
Big pickup.
Yeah. Kenneth Walker is now in Kansas City.
Hopefully Justin Fields is playing like 5 games for him. That's probably not happening, but still.
And all things considered, Justin Fields has been able to win games, and now he hasn't been a outright winner, but 5 games, Justin Fields has shown in you the ability to win 3 of those games. I think like Jacksonville doesn't scare me. I feel like in many ways they have taken a step back. But Houston was so dangerous last year defensively. And if they, with the offensive line moves, if those moves actually pan out, then this is a much better team because they'll be able to run the ball. 3.9 yards per carry, guys. That was 2025. Teller, Montgomery, Braden Smith. I'm going to include Evan Brown in this. I'm going to include Ed Ingram being in the system for another year. Houston should at least bump that 3.9 up 0.4 yards. We should see 4.3 at the very least in 2026. And that's a much different offense. Marginally, that's a much different offense. So I think Houston is still in the pack with a lot of those guys, Buffalo and Kansas City right now. And their defense still will give them an opportunity to win and be in all of those games.
So Houston still has to prove that they can be highly competitive on third down offensively. They still have to prove that they can be competitive in the red zone in scoring touchdowns consistently. And quite frankly, Houston has to prove they can go on the road late in the year and stack wins in the postseason consistently. And I understand your question, MC. Your question is about home field advantage. We all know it was a missed opportunity last year with Patrick Mahomes not in the postseason, Lamar Jackson not in the postseason, and Joe Burrow not in the postseason. Now that all 3 of those quarterbacks have missed, and now those teams are going to play, or those quarterbacks are going to lead teams that play 4-play schedules. So I haven't looked at either, how all those schedules stack up. But now here's the Houston Texans playing a 2nd-play schedule. And I would not bet the house, even with this defense, I would not bet the house that the Texans would secure a number 1 or number 2 overall seed. I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm saying I would not bet that right now. We still don't know where's the psyche of the quarterback. How does the quarterback handle not getting an extension this offseason? Because they'll run out of time. Quiet as kept. What we got? We got a week. We're coming up on a month. I think we're 5 weeks out from having to make that decision by May 5th, if my math is correct. So we're a month and some change for having to make the decision on what they're going to do with C.J. Stroud in terms of the 5th-year option, knowing that they still have the opportunity to franchise him 3 times, which is extremely rare to do it all 3, but you understand the point. So, no, if you were going to ask me right now, Stan, bet the mortgage, the Texans get a 1st or a 2nd overall seed, I would say no.
And if that happens, we're probably having a lot of the same conversations next year, don't you think?
Offensive line, quarterback play, skill positions, or lack thereof.
Yeah. Wouldn't be a good thing. It's just something that I found myself thinking about today because it's, it was the thing that stood out is that if this team could ever play home games outside of the divisional round or the wild card round in the playoffs, man, that would be, or I should say play a home game in the divisional round. That'd be nice.
Well, think about this.
Wild card.
They won 12 games in the regular season this year and didn't even win the division.
That's bad.
Let alone a first or a second seed. So again, not saying it's impossible. D'Amico has shown, right? When we counted them out, 0-3, 3-5, many people waved the white flag. D'Amico fought through it. He led the cavalry through it. And you get into the tournament. Then it's just about war of attrition. And quite frankly, can you play your best ball when your best ball is needed? And the Texans in the divisional round have not shown that they can do that on the road as of yet.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I think Buffalo's going to be there. I think Jacksonville, I know John said he think they took a step back. I think Jacksonville is going to be there.
They did nothing in free agency.
They won the division a year. They lost Travis Etienne.
See his name? Achane.
That's right. He did say that. Yeah.
I mean, who was major for them last year, especially during those stretches before Trevor Lawrence got hot.
All right.
He was doing a lot of work.
But also don't forget they get Travis Hunter back, and also remember Jacoby Myers was a mid-season acquisition into that offense.
Right.
So now you get Jacoby Myers a full offseason and get fully integrated into that offense. I think they'll be all right. Who's running the ball for Jacksonville now? Because Tank Bigsby's gone, and now Travis is gone. Who I can't remember off the top of my head who's running the ball for them. But I think
pretty good last year.
I think Baltimore is going to be there as long as they have Lamar Jackson. I think Cincinnati, if they can get that defense to just be better, I think Joe Burrow and that offense is going to be there in the AFC.
Zero belief for me in them.
The Chargers, people still laugh at the Chargers, but they're making the postseason with Justin Herbert seemingly like every year, although they aren't winning games. They're making the postseason out west. Who are some other teams that I just think about real quick that could do something? Somebody's going to go from worst to first. It happens every year. So there are some teams in the AFC that we kind of poo-poo, and somebody's going to jump up there. Can the Steelers with I was going to say Mike Holmgren.
Here's your worst to first. Here's your worst to first. Your worst to first candidates for 2026 is the Jets, the Browns, the Raiders, and the Titans.
No.
If you went third place,
could be
teams would be Dolphins, Bengals, Chiefs, Colts. Those are your third place teams in each division. So obviously,
Bengals,
you're going Chiefs are getting back to it.
Bengals,
maybe
perhaps.
That division stinks.
I just said somebody. Who did I say be careful with? That Tennessee Titans crew. And I said this when I found out that Saleh got that job and Dable was coming to be the OC. Tennessee has a ton of money to spend in the offseason. I have honestly not looked at where their roster is.
They've not spent it. They still have $65 million in cap space available.
So we'll see what they do in the draft. I think they have all of their picks. So Tennessee is somebody that gives me – I'm not going to ignore them. I know, again, here in Houston, we feel the way that we feel about Amy Adams-Strunk and her operation in Tennessee. But they will be well coached. They'll be tough. They've got a few pieces already, and they've got some money to spend. Now, apparently, they're choosing not to spend it, and I wonder what that's about. Perhaps they're talking about some in-season trades or some training camp moves or something. But Tennessee is somebody that I keep my eye on from a worst to first dynamic.
All right, guys. Final couple of minutes here. You want to give your parting shots to the people?
Go ahead, John.
I'm just happy to see you guys again.
Yeah, man.
That's it. I mean, I don't have nothing else to say. Great show. We're happy to see you guys. For the Texans, I will say this, and I think this is something we have to really, talk a little bit more about. Just don't be scared to make the move. Whatever that move is, just don't be scared to make it. And again, I think this year for Houston, they have 28, 38, 59, 69, 106, which is a very valuable pick at their fourth round spot. If trading up is going to get Houston a guy that can take them over the hill, do it. Don't be scared.
Like a Kenyon Sadiq?
Like a Kenyon Sadiq. Or if these teams are really just letting Lemon drop, which I don't think is going to happen, I think he's going to be the second receiver taken off the board. But if he gets to that 19-20 range, move up and go get him.
All right, for me, I'm going to do parting shot. How about Hannah McNair? She's in the news. She's got a new title and expanded responsibilities. The wife of Texans team owner Cal McNair was named Chief Community Officer and Vice President of the Texans Foundation. She is going to be integral in getting this Bridgeland Toro District up and operational. And given that I'm about equity and inclusion, it's nice to see locally the ladies growing in prowess, or a lady growing in prowess and power inside an organization, and her fingerprints over what is going to be a very big piece of what's the future of Houston looks like in Harris County. So congratulations, Hannah McNair. I'm becoming more excited about the Toro District. I don't love that it's up in Bridgeland, personally. I wish it were closer, down inside the loop somewhere, but I am getting excited about the vision. I keep looking at the renderings and the sizzle reels and stuff, so we'll see. But congratulations, Hannah McNair.
It will be very cool to see what it looks like when it finally gets here. I'll give my final one is happy opening week, everybody. Baseball's back. I'm very excited. I'm not very excited about the Astros personally. I think they're going to be a second place team in the division and win like 84 games this year. I hope I'm wrong. But
give me that rotation. Hunter Brown.
Yeah.
Burrows is going over Ime.
Yeah, he's going second. Javier's going third. My dogs are pissed about it, apparently.
Thank you.
Imai's going fourth, and then fifth is McCullers.
Lance McCullers Jr. still doing it.
Hey, $17 million. You don't want to be paying him $17 million to cut the grass. With that, we're going to go because my dogs are saying it's time to go. They're pissed off. I'm going to go watch baseball because it's back now. That's Stan and John. We'll talk to you guys later on this week on the Locked on Texans Squad show.